The Velthari Empire had never known defeat. Not once in 3,000 years. Their warships moved through the galaxy like a dark storm, swallowing everything in their path. Planets fell. Civilizations crumbled. Species that had built great cities and dreamed of the stars watched those dreams turn to ash as Velthari weapons burned their worlds. Commander Thorin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He was tall, even for a Velthari. His gray skin was marked with battle scars from 100 conquests. 4 yellow eyes watched the view screen as another world surrendered below. The planet was called Morva by its people. In a few hours, it would simply be called Sector 7B in Velthari records. The Morvani had fought bravely. They had lasted almost 12 hours before their leaders knelt and begged for mercy. Thorin felt nothing. Not pride, not joy, not even satisfaction. Conquest had become boring. It was like stepping on insects. There was no challenge anymore. The Morvani leadership has surrendered completely, his second officer reported. They are requesting terms. The usual terms? Thorin said without interest. Their resources belong to us. Their people will work for us. Their history will be erased. They will learn our language and forget their own. It was the same speech he had given 1,000 times. The Velthari did not simply conquer. They absorbed. They erased. Within 3 generations, the Morvani would not even remember they had once been free. Thorin turned away from the view screen. Chart the next sector. I want to know what lies beyond the outer rim. His navigation officer, a young Velthari named Rek, pulled up the star maps. His claws moved quickly over the control panel. Commander, the region beyond the rim is largely unexplored. Our long-range probes have detected some signals, but nothing significant. What kind of signals? Primitive radio waves, Commander. Very old technology. The signals come from a single star system. Yellow star. 8 planets. The 3rd planet appears to have life. Thorin's mandibles clicked in amusement. A single system? They have not even expanded beyond their birth world? No, Commander. They appear to have small outposts on their neighboring planets, but nothing more. They are very young, very limited. Thorin almost laughed. In 3,000 years, the Velthari had conquered 10,000 star systems. They had defeated species with technology far beyond their own. They had crushed empires that spanned entire galaxies. And now they would face a species that had not even left its own backyard. What do they call themselves? Thorin asked. Rek checked his data. They call themselves humans, Commander. They call their world Earth. Earth. Thorin tested the word. It felt strange on his tongue. Send the 3rd fleet. Tell Admiral Crix that I expect this conquest to be finished before the cycle ends. I want no delays. Yes, Commander. Should we send additional forces? Thorin shook his head. The 3rd fleet has 800 warships. That is 800 more than we need for a species still playing with radio waves. Do not waste resources on insects. The order was sent. 800 Velthari warships, each one the size of a small city, began their journey toward a tiny yellow star at the edge of the galaxy. They carried enough firepower to crack planets in half. They carried soldiers bred for war, weapons designed for extinction, and the absolute certainty that they would return victorious in the history of the Velthari Empire. The 3rd fleet had never failed. They had conquered the Kith in 6 hours. They had broken the crystal beings of Sector 9 without firing a single shot. They had made the proud warriors of the Helian Confederacy weep and beg. Humans would be no different, or so they believed. The 3rd fleet traveled for 30 cycles through folded space. Admiral Crix, an old warrior with scars covering half his face, spent the journey reviewing what little data they had on the humans. He learned that humans were soft creatures. They had no natural armor, no claws, no venom. They were slow compared to Velthari soldiers. They were weak compared to Velthari strength. Their ships were small and crude. Their weapons were laughable. They fight among themselves, Crix noted with contempt as he read the reports. They have wars with each other. They kill their own kind over patches of dirt and imaginary lines on maps. His officers laughed. A species that fought itself was a species already half defeated. The Velthari had learned long ago that unity was strength. The humans had not learned this lesson. They were divided, scattered, foolish. We will give them a chance to surrender, Crix decided. It is tradition. We will broadcast our demands, and they will kneel. If they do not kneel, we will burn their world and find a more cooperative species to serve us. The fleet emerged from folded space near the 8th planet of the system. The humans called it Neptune. It was a blue gas giant, cold and empty. Beyond it stretched the darkness of deep space. Behind it lay the inner system, where the humans lived. Crix expected to see nothing. Perhaps a few primitive satellites. Perhaps some mining stations. What he saw made him pause. A single ship floated in the darkness between Neptune and the void. It was small compared to Velthari warships. It was shaped like a long blade, with wings that swept back like a bird of prey. Lights glowed along its hull. It was alone. What is that? Crix demanded. A human vessel, Admiral. Military design. They call it a carrier. One ship. Crix stared at the view screen. They sent one ship to meet us. Perhaps they wished to surrender quickly. Perhaps. But something felt wrong. Crix had conquered dozens of species. He knew what surrender looked like. The ship before him did not look like it was surrendering. It was positioned directly in their path, like a guard at a gate. Hail them, Crix ordered. Broadcast our demands. The communication was sent in the crude human language that Velthari linguists had decoded from their radio signals. The message was simple and direct, as all Velthari demands were. Surrender your world. Accept absorption into the Empire. Resistance is irrational. You will be given one opportunity to comply. The response came quickly. A human face appeared on the view screen. It was a female, Crix noted, with dark hair and calm eyes. She wore a uniform marked with symbols he did not understand. Behind her, other humans worked at stations, their faces tense but focused. The female spoke. Her voice was steady. This is Admiral Unipark of the United Earth Navy. You have entered our territory without permission. You will state your intentions. Crix almost admired her courage. Almost. Your territory? Little creature, you have no territory. Everything in this galaxy belongs to the Velthari Empire. We have conquered 10,000 worlds. We have crushed civilizations far greater than yours. You will surrender now, or you will die. The human female did not flinch. She did not tremble. She did not beg. Instead, she smiled. We decline, she said. And the screen went dark. Crix stared at the blank view screen for a long moment. His officers shifted nervously. No species had ever declined. Not once in 3,000 years. Admiral? His weapons officer asked uncertainly. Your orders? Crix felt something he had not felt in centuries. He did not recognize it at first. It was small, like a tiny insect crawling up his spine thought it was doubt. He crushed it quickly. Destroy them, he said. Admiral Unipark had been awake for 36 hours when the aliens arrived. She was 53 years old. She had gray streaks in her black hair and lines around her eyes from years of difficult decisions. She had fought in the Mars rebellions when she was young. She had commanded ships during the Belt Wars. She had buried friends and sent young soldiers to their deaths. but she had never faced anything like this. The Horizon's Edge was humanity's pride. It was the first true deep space carrier, built to explore the unknown regions beyond the solar system. It carried 200 crew members, 3,000 combat drones, and enough supplies for 5 years of independent operation. It was the most advanced ship humanity had ever built. Against 800 alien warships, it was a pebble facing a mountain. Una stood on the bridge and watched the enemy fleet spread across her tactical display like a cancer. Each red dot was a ship larger than anything humans had built. Each one carried weapons that her sensors could barely understand. The energy readings alone made her chief engineer whistle in disbelief. "Those power signatures," Lieutenant Taiho Lim said, shaking his head. "Each ship is producing more energy than our entire fleet combined." "How is that possible?" 3,000 years of development, Una replied. "They have had time to perfect their technology. We are children compared to them. Then how do we fight them?" Una looked at her crew. They were all watching her, waiting for answers, waiting for hope. Lieutenant Minho Kang stood at the weapons station, his jaw tight with tension. Ensign Hannah Choi monitored communications with trembling hands. Chief Pilot Junho Seo gripped his controls like a lifeline. They were all young, too young to die. But they had volunteered for this mission, knowing the risks. They had traveled to the edge of the solar system to watch for threats. Now the threat had arrived, and they were the only ones standing between it and Earth. "Reinforcements from Earth," Una said. "How long?" 14 hours, Admiral," Hana reported. "The fleet is mobilizing, but they cannot reach us any faster." 14 hours. An eternity in battle. The aliens could reach Earth in less than 6 hours if they pushed past her. 8 billion people. Every city, every home, every child. Una closed her eyes for a moment. She thought of her daughter back on Earth, now grown with children of her own. She thought of the small house in Bizen where she had grown up, where her father had taught her to fish in the cold morning waters. She thought of all the ordinary people living ordinary lives, unaware that their survival now depended on one ship and a handful of scared humans. She opened her eyes. "We hold the line," she said firmly. "We do not let them pass. Whatever it takes, whatever it costs, we give Earth those 14 hours. "Admiral," Minho said carefully, "with respect, how do we hold against 800 warships? Our weapons cannot pierce their armor. Our shields cannot survive their firepower. We are not soldiers. We are explorers. Then we explore new ways to fight." Una moved to the tactical display and studied the enemy formation. They have never faced humans before. They do not know how we think. They do not know what we are willing to do. That is our advantage. The alien transmission came again, this time with a visual. The creature that appeared on screen was tall and gray, with 4 yellow eyes and mandibles that clicked when it spoke. Its voice was cold and mechanical. "You have refused our generous offer of surrender. This is foolish. You cannot win. You cannot even survive. But we are merciful. We will give you one final chance. Open your ship and allow our soldiers to board. Your crew will be taken as servants. Your ship will be studied. Your world will be absorbed. This is your only path to survival." Una stepped forward. Every eye on the bridge watched her. "Let me explain something to you," she said calmly. "Humans have a saying. We say that the best way to face death is standing on your feet, not kneeling on your knees. You ask us to surrender. You ask us to become slaves. You ask us to give up everything we are." She paused. "No." The alien commander's mandibles clicked rapidly. "You do not understand your position. We have destroyed civilizations far greater than yours. Your resistance is meaningless. Maybe, but we will resist anyway. That is what humans do. She cut the transmission. The first alien barrage came 30 seconds later. Yuna had never experienced anything like it. The horizon's edge shook as though a giant had grabbed it and was trying to tear it apart. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered. Crew members were thrown from their seats. Shields at 60%. Taiho shouted. Hull breach on deck 7. Sealing bulkheads. Return fire. Minho yelled, but their weapons seemed pitiful against the alien fleet. Missiles exploded harmlessly against enemy shields. Laser batteries did nothing more than scratch alien armor. Another barrage. The ship groaned. Metal twisted. Someone screamed. Shields at 40%. We cannot take another hit like that. Yuna gripped her command chair. Think. There had to be something. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. They had clawed their way from caves to the stars. There had to be a way. The drones, she said suddenly. Minho, what is the status of our drone complement? Full stock, Admiral. 3,000 Wasp-class combat drones. But Admiral, they are designed for reconnaissance and light combat. They cannot hurt those ships. They do not need to hurt the ships. Yuna pulled up the alien fleet's technical data on her display. Look at their engine signatures. Massive power output, but concentrated in specific areas. Their engines are their weakness. Big, powerful, and probably very sensitive. Minho understood immediately. We use the drones as missiles. Target the engines. Exactly. A drone cannot hurt their armor, but 3,000 drones hitting the same weak point? That is different. That is something they have never seen. Taiho looked uncertain. Admiral, those drones are autonomous. If we use them as suicide weapons, they will be gone. We will have nothing left. We will have time, Yuna said. That is all that matters. Launch the Wasps, all of them. Target enemy engines. Make every single one count. The bay doors opened. 3,000 small craft poured into space like angry insects. They were fast. They were fearless. They were controlled by simple computers that knew only one thing. Complete. The mission. The Velthari had never seen anything like it. They were used to enemies who valued their equipment. They were used to species who protected their machines and retreated when losses became too high. They did not understand a species that would throw away 3,000 drones without hesitation. The first wave hit. Alien ships began to drift as their engines exploded. The second wave hit harder. The third wave turned the organized fleet into chaos. Admiral Crix watched in shock as his beautiful formation crumbled. Ships collided with each other. Weapons fired blindly, sometimes hitting their own allies. 200 of his 800 warships were now dead in space, their engines destroyed, their crews helpless. How? He demanded. How is this possible? No one had an answer. On the bridge of the horizon's edge, Yuna allowed herself a small smile. It was not victory. It was not even close to victory. But it was something. It was proof that humans would not go quietly into the dark. Admiral, Hana said with wonder in her voice. They are retreating. The alien fleet is pulling back. Yuna watched the red dots on her display begin to move away. It was not a full retreat. They would regroup. They would return. But for now, for this moment, they had blinked. How long do we have? Yuna asked. Unknown. Hours maybe. A day at most. Yuna nodded. Then we use every second. Send a message to Earth. Tell them what happened here. Tell them the aliens can be hurt. Tell them to prepare. She looked out at the stars, where enemy ships still lingered like wolves waiting outside a door. This is not over, she said quietly. This is just the beginning. The Velthari retreated. But they did not leave. Admiral Crix gathered his remaining ships and formed a new line beyond the range of the human drones. His fleet had been wounded, but it was not broken. 600 warships still floated in the darkness, their weapons charged and ready. Crix stared at the distant human vessel with all four of his eyes. His pride burned like acid in his chest. Never in his long career had he been humiliated like this. Never had a primitive species caused him such shame. The High Council would hear of this failure. His name would become a joke among the other commanders. But more than his pride, something else troubled him. Something deeper and more disturbing. He had seen fear before. Every species felt fear when the Velthari arrived. That was natural. That was expected. But the human commander had not shown fear. She had smiled. She had declined his offer with a calm voice and steady eyes. And then she had attacked with weapons that served no purpose except to cause damage before dying. The Velthari did not understand sacrifice. They did not waste resources. They did not throw away machines or soldiers unless victory was certain. The humans had thrown away 3,000 drones, knowing they would not survive. They had done it without hesitation, without regret, as if the loss meant nothing compared to the goal. What kind of creatures are these? Crix murmured. His tactical officer, a young Velthari named Strex, approached carefully. Admiral, we have analyzed the human attack pattern. Their drones were not advanced. Their weapons were simple, but they coordinated perfectly, targeting our engine systems with precise timing. It was elegant. Elegant. Crix tasted the word with disgust. You admire them? No, Admiral. I fear them. Strex lowered his eyes. I fear what they might become if we give them time. Crix understood. A species that could fight like this with primitive technology would be terrifying with advanced technology. If humans had 3,000 years to develop like the Velthari, they might become unstoppable. We end this now, Crix decided. No more waiting. No more demands. We destroy that ship and move on to their homeworld. Prepare all weapons. Full assault. The Velthari fleet moved forward. On the horizon's edge, alarms began to wail again. Una had not slept. Her eyes burned with exhaustion, but she refused to rest. Sleep could wait. Death was patient. They're coming back, Minho reported. His voice was hollow. He knew what this meant. Without the drones, they had almost nothing left. Status of the ship? Una asked. Shields at 30%. Hull damage on multiple decks. Weapons are functional but limited. We have no more drones. Minho paused. Admiral, we cannot survive another direct assault. Then we do not fight directly. Una studied the tactical display. Her mind raced through possibilities. How close are our reinforcements? Still 8 hours out. 8 hours. Impossible. The aliens would reach them in minutes. The asteroid field, Junho said suddenly from the pilot station. Admiral, there is a debris field near Neptune's orbit. Leftover rocks from the planet's formation. If we position ourselves inside it, the aliens will have trouble targeting us. Una nodded slowly. Good thinking. But they will simply blast the entire field apart. Not if we keep moving. Not if we make them chase us. Junho's eyes were bright with desperate energy. Their ships are big. Our ship is small. In open space, that is a disadvantage. In a debris field, it becomes an advantage. We can fly where they cannot. It was insane. It was suicidal. It was their only option. Do it, Una ordered. Take us into the debris field. Maximum speed. The horizon's edge turned and accelerated toward the tumbling rocks that floated near Neptune's orbit. Behind them, 600 alien warships, followed like hungry predators. What followed was the longest 4 hours of Una's life. The debris field was chaos. Massive rocks spun through space, colliding with each other, breaking apart, reforming into new clusters. The horizon's edge twisted and turned through narrow gaps, sometimes with only meters to spare. Junho flew like a man possessed, his hands dancing over the controls, his eyes never leaving the navigation display. The Valkyrie ships tried to follow. Some made it. Most did not. Their large vessels could not match the human ship's agility. They crashed into asteroids. They collided with each other. Their weapons' fire destroyed rocks that then created more debris, making the field even more dangerous. Krix watched from a safe distance as his fleet tore itself apart trying to catch one small ship. Pull back. He finally ordered. Pull back and surround the field. They cannot stay in there forever. The surviving Valkyrie ships retreated and formed a ring around the debris field. Now the humans were trapped. They could not escape. They could not hide forever. It was only a matter of time, but time was exactly what Yuna needed. Inside the debris field, the horizon's edge floated in a small pocket of calm space between spinning rocks. The crew was exhausted. Some had fallen asleep at their stations. Others stared at nothing with hollow eyes. Yuna walked among them. She touched shoulders. She spoke quiet words of encouragement. She reminded them why they were fighting. My grandmother told me a story once, she said to Hana, who was crying silently at the communication station. During the old wars on Earth, there was a group of soldiers who held a bridge against an entire army. They knew they could not win. They knew they would die. But they held the bridge anyway, because every minute they held was a minute their families had to escape. Hana wiped her eyes. Did they survive? Some did. Some did not. But their sacrifice saved thousands. That is what we are doing here. We are the bridge. We are the door. And we will not break. The hours crawled past. Taiho worked miracles with the damaged systems, keeping shields and life support functioning with parts salvaged from destroyed equipment. Minho prepared the last of their weapons, knowing they would probably never get a chance to use them. Junho rested his hands and planned possible escape routes, though he knew there were none. 6 hours passed. 7. 7.5. Then Hana suddenly sat up straight. Her eyes went wide. Admiral, I am receiving transmissions. Multiple signatures approaching from the inner system. Yuna rushed to the display. There, appearing on the edge of the tactical map, were new contacts. Human contacts. Dozens of them. The fleet, she breathed. They made it. They arrived early. They must have pushed their engines beyond safety limits, Taiho said with awe. That would take years off those ships' operational lives. They did not care about years, Minho said. They cared about us. The human fleet emerged from the darkness like a wave of hope. 47 ships, everything Earth had been able to mobilize in time. They were not as big as Valkyrie vessels. They were not as powerful. But they were enough. Admiral Krix saw them coming. He calculated the odds. His fleet was damaged and scattered. The humans had fresh ships and desperate courage. For the first time in his career, he ordered a full retreat. The Valkyrie fleet vanished into folded space, leaving behind the wreckage of their humiliation. On the bridge of the horizon's edge, Yuna finally allowed herself to sit down. Her body shook with exhaustion and relief. Tears ran down her face, though she did not notice them. We did it, Junho said in disbelief. We actually did it. We bought time, Yuna corrected gently. That is all. They will return. They will bring more ships. More weapons. This was just the first battle. She looked out at the stars, where her people's ships now gathered in formation. But now they know something important. They know we will fight. And that changes everything. A message came from the lead ship of the rescue fleet. It was from Fleet Admiral Dong Wuhan, the commander of Earth's combined forces. Admiral Park, you have done what no one thought possible. You have shown the galaxy that humanity will not surrender. The Council is preparing. Every shipyard is active. Every factory is working. We will be ready. Yuna replied with a tired voice. Tell them to hurry. We have not won. We have only delayed. I know, Dongwu said. But delay is enough. You have given us hope, Admiral. Hope is the most dangerous weapon in the universe. The horizon's edge, battered and broken, began its slow journey home. Behind it, the debris field floated silently, filled with the wreckage of alien ships that had learned a terrible lesson. Humans did not surrender. Humans did not break. And when pushed to the edge, humans pushed back. Commander Thawne had never seen the High Council in such a state. The great chamber on Velthury Prime was filled with shouting. Accusations flew like weapons. Ancient protocols were forgotten as commanders blamed each other for the impossible failure. Admiral Crix stood in the center of the chamber, alone under the harsh lights. His scars seemed deeper now. His posture was bent. He looked like a creature already defeated. Explain, the High Sovereign commanded. Her voice cut through the chaos like a blade. She was old, even by Velthury standards. Her 6 eyes held the wisdom of centuries and the cruelty of millennia. Explain how 800 of our finest warships were stopped by primitives. Crix lifted his head. They did not fight like any species we have encountered. They sacrificed their machines without hesitation. They used their smaller size as an advantage. They retreated into a debris field and used our own aggression against us. They used debris? A council member laughed. They threw rocks at you? They made us throw rocks at ourselves. Crix's voice was steady despite his shame. Their pilot navigated through the field with impossible precision. Our ships crashed. Our weapons created more obstacles. By the time we surrounded them, reinforcements had arrived. Reinforcements. The High Sovereign leaned forward. How many ships did the humans send? 47. The chamber fell silent. The Velthury had conquered species with thousands of ships. They had broken empires with millions of soldiers. And now they had been forced to retreat by 47 primitive vessels. You outnumbered them 12-1, the High Sovereign said slowly. And you retreated. My fleet was damaged and scattered. They had fresh ships and determination. I made a tactical decision. You made a cowardly decision. The High Sovereign stood. She was tall, even for a Velthury, and her presence filled the chamber like a cold wind. You have brought shame upon the Empire. You have given hope to our subjects. Do you understand what hope does, Admiral? It spreads. It grows. It turns obedient slaves into dangerous rebels. Crix said nothing. There was nothing to say. You will remain here, the High Sovereign decided. You will watch as I personally lead the invasion fleet to this Earth. You will see how a true commander handles primitives. And when the humans are broken, when their world is ash, you will beg for the mercy of a quick death. She turned to address the full council. We send everything. Not hundreds of ships, thousands, not one fleet, 10 fleets. We will erase these humans so completely that even their memory will fade from the galaxy. No one will ever speak of this defeat again. The preparations began immediately. Meanwhile, on Earth, a different kind of preparation was underway. Director Ji-hoon Beek stood in the Central Command building in Seoul. Screens covered every wall, showing shipyards, factories, training facilities. The entire planet was mobilizing. Every nation had set aside old differences. Every resource was directed toward defense. Production report. Ji-hoon requested. His assistant, a young woman named June, pulled up the data. 37 new destroyers will be ready within 3 months. The orbital defense platforms are 60% complete. Ground-based weapon systems are being installed on every continent. It is not enough. Ji-hoon rubbed his tired eyes. We have months. They have thousands of years of technology. We are building sandcastles against a tsunami. Admiral Park's report suggests the Velthari have weaknesses, June said carefully. Their ships are powerful but not maneuverable. Their tactics are predictable. They have never faced an enemy willing to sacrifice equipment, because no sane species sacrifices equipment. Ji-hoon smiled grimly. Fortunately, humans have never been accused of being sane. In Bizen, an engineer named Sora Yoon worked 18-hour shifts at the main shipyard. She was 28 years old, with calloused hands and grease permanently stained into her skin. Before the aliens came, she had been building transport vessels. Now she was building weapons of war. The new Aegis-class design, her supervisor explained, showing her the blueprints. Smaller than the old destroyers, faster, equipped with drone launchers based on the Horizon's Edge specifications. Each ship can carry 500 Wasp units. Sora studied the plans. The armor is thin. One direct hit would destroy it. That is intentional. We cannot match their firepower. So we build ships that can avoid their fire. Speed over strength. Numbers over power. It was a different kind of warfare. The Velthari built massive vessels designed to dominate. Humans built small vessels designed to survive. The Velthari believed in overwhelming force. Humans believed in overwhelming persistence. In Inshin, pilot Do-Hyun Shin trained in simulators built from captured Velthari data. He was young, barely 22, but he had the fastest reflexes in his training class. The simulators put him against virtual alien ships, teaching him their patterns, their weaknesses, their blind spots. The Velthari rely on direct attacks, his instructor explained. Straight lines. Maximum firepower. They do not understand feints or deceptions. They have never needed to. Do-Hyun practiced evasive maneuvers until his hands cramped. He learned to predict enemy fire based on power signatures. He studied the debris field battle 100 times, memorizing every twist and turn of the Horizon's Edge. Why do they fight like this? He asked one day. Why do they just attack directly? His instructor, an older man who had fought in the Belt Wars, considered the question. Because they have always won. When you always win, you do not learn. You do not adapt. Failure is the greatest teacher, and the Velthari have never failed. Until now. On Mars, the damaged Horizon's Edge was being repaired. Admiral Yuna supervised the work from a temporary command center. She had refused to return to Earth, insisting that her place was on the front line. Minho visited her one evening, bringing food she would probably forget to eat. The crew is resting, he reported. Taiho is working with the engineers on the new shield designs. Hana has been analyzing Velthari communication patterns. Good. Yuna stared at the tactical display. We have 4 months, maybe 5. Then they return. Will we be ready? No. Yuna turned to face him. We will never be ready. They have 3,000 years of advantages. They have millions of ships. They have resources we cannot imagine. She paused. But we have something they do not. What? Experience with failure. Every generation of humans has faced impossible odds. Ice ages, plagues, wars, disasters. We have almost destroyed ourselves a dozen times. But we are still here. We are still fighting. That is what makes us dangerous. Minho smiled slightly. You sound like a recruitment poster. I sound like someone who has been awake for 3 days. Yuna finally ate some of the food he had brought. But it is true. The Velthari do not know how to lose. We do. And losing teaches you things that winning never can. Across Earth, ordinary people prepared in their own ways. Parents told their children stories of hope. Teachers taught history lessons about survival. Artists painted murals of defiance. Musicians wrote songs of courage. Humanity had always been divided. Different nations, different languages, different beliefs. But the arrival of the Valkyrie changed something fundamental. For the first time in history, humans looked at the stars and saw a common enemy. For the first time, they understood that their petty differences meant nothing compared to their shared survival. We are not ready, politicians admitted in their speeches. We may never be ready, but we will fight anyway. We will fight because that is what humans do. We will fight because our children deserve a chance to see the stars. We will fight because surrender is not in our nature. The months passed. Ships were built. Weapons were tested. Soldiers were trained. And far across the galaxy, the largest armada in Valkyrie history prepared to depart. 8,000 ships. The combined might of 10 fleets. Enough firepower to burn 100 worlds. The High Sovereign herself would lead them. She would show the galaxy what happened to species that dared to resist. She would teach the humans, fear not, or so she believed. But Admiral Una Park, watching the stars from her temporary command center, knew something the High Sovereign did not. Fear was not something you taught. Fear was something you felt. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the Valkyrie Empire was beginning to feel it. They just did not know it yet. 6 months after the Battle of Neptune's Gate, the largest fleet in galactic history emerged from folded space. 8,000 Valkyrie warships materialized beyond Earth's moon, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. At the center of the formation, the High Sovereign's flagship, the Divine Will, dwarfed everything around it. It was 3 times the size of any other vessel. A floating mountain of armor and weapons. The High Sovereign stood on her bridge and looked at the small blue planet that had caused so much trouble. It seemed so fragile, so vulnerable, so easy to destroy. "Scan for their defenses," she commanded. Her tactical officers obeyed. The data that returned made them pause. "Sovereign," the lead officer reported carefully, "we are detecting human ships in orbit around the planet. Approximately 300 vessels." 300? The Sovereign's mandibles clicked with amusement. "We outnumber them nearly 30 to 1. This will not even be a battle. It will be an execution. There is more, Sovereign. We are also detecting orbital platforms, weapons emplacements on the planetary surface. And their ships? What about their ships? They are different from what we expected. Smaller, faster. Each one appears to carry drone launchers similar to the weapon that damaged Admiral Crix's fleet." The Sovereign considered this. So they learned from their small victory. It does not matter. We have adapted as well. Our new shields are resistant to their primitive explosives. Their drones will be useless. She opened a communication channel. "Humans of Earth, I am the High Sovereign of the Valkyrie Empire. Your resistance has been noted and will be punished. You have one final opportunity to surrender. Open your defenses and kneel before us. Perhaps we will show mercy. Perhaps we will allow some of you to live as servants. This is my only offer." The response came quickly. A familiar face appeared on the screen. Dark hair with gray streaks. Calm eyes that had seen death and refused to blink. Admiral Una Park stood on the bridge of a new ship. The Soul. It was smaller than her old carrier, sleeker. Designed for speed and survival rather than exploration. Behind her, her crew worked with quiet efficiency. "High Sovereign," Una said politely. "Thank you for the offer. We decline." The Sovereign felt a flash of anger. "You are a fool. You saw what happened to the Third Fleet. That was 800 ships. I have brought 8,000. Your 300 vessels cannot stop us. You are probably right. Yuna's voice remained calm. But here is what you do not understand about humans. We have been fighting for our survival since we first walked upright on our world. We fought ice that covered our planet. We fought diseases that killed millions. We fought each other endlessly, stupidly, tragically. But we survived. We always survived. Survival means nothing against superior force. Superior force is not everything. Yuna leaned forward slightly. Let me tell you what you are really facing. You are facing a species that has spent its entire existence learning how to fight when outnumbered. You are facing mothers who will burn cities to protect their children. You are facing soldiers who will charge into certain death because they believe in something greater than themselves. You are facing engineers who can build weapons from scraps and scientists who can turn defeat into victory. She paused. You gave us 6 months. In 6 months, we went from 1 ship to 300. Give us 6 years, and we will have 3,000. Give us 60 years, and we will come for your empire. You cannot kill us. You can only delay us. The sovereign stared at the human female with all 6 of her eyes. For a moment, just a moment, she felt something cold in her chest. Something that might have been doubt. She crushed it. Begin the attack, she ordered. The battle that followed was the largest in human history. Valkyrie ships advanced in perfect formation, their weapons blazing. The sky above Earth turned white with energy discharges. Orbital platforms exploded. Human ships shattered into debris, but the humans fought back. The new Aegis-class destroyers were fast enough to dodge Valkyrie weapons. Their drone swarms, improved from the original designs, targeted enemy engines and weapon systems with devastating precision. For every human ship that fell, 2 Valkyrie ships were crippled. Captain Minho Kang commanded a squadron of 10 destroyers on the left flank. His ships twisted through enemy fire, launching drones and retreating before the Valkyrie could target them. Keep moving, he shouted to his squadron. Never stop moving. They cannot hit what they cannot catch. Pilot Do Hyun Shin flew a single-seat fighter in the chaos of the battle. He had trained for this moment his entire life. His ship darted between massive alien vessels, targeting their sensor arrays and communication systems. Taking out their eyes, he muttered as he fired. Fight blind, you monsters. On the ground, orbital defense cannons fired into space. Each shot was carefully aimed by controllers who knew they would only get 1 chance. Each hit mattered. Each small victory counted. And at the center of the human formation, Admiral Yuna commanded the battle with steady calm. She had seen death before. She was not afraid. Focus fire on their flagship, she ordered. The divine will cut off the head, and the body will hesitate. 300 human ships concentrated their attack on the sovereign's vessel. Drones swarmed it like angry insects. Missiles hammered its shields. Laser fire probed for weaknesses. The divine will shuddered. For the first time in its existence, it took damage. On her bridge, the High Sovereign watched in disbelief as warning lights flashed around her. This is impossible. We are the most powerful vessel in the galaxy. Sovereign, her tactical officer reported, voice trembling. We have lost shield integrity on sections 7 through 12. Hull damage on multiple decks. Engine efficiency is dropping. How? They are primitives. They are not fighting for territory, Sovereign. They are fighting for survival. There is a difference. The battle raged for 9 days. 9 days of constant fighting, constant death, constant sacrifice. Human ships fell by the dozens. Valkyrie ships fell by the hundreds. The space around Earth became a graveyard of wreckage from both sides. On the 7th day, Admiral Yuna received a message from Earth Command. Director Ji-hoon's voice was exhausted but hopeful. Admiral, Our reserves are almost depleted. But the enemy is in worse shape. They have lost nearly half their fleet. Their formation is breaking apart. They are not used to this kind of warfare. They are learning, Una replied. But they are learning slowly. Too slowly. On the 9th day, the Divine Will's engines failed completely. The massive flagship drifted helplessly in space, surrounded by the wreckage of its escorts. The High Sovereign stood on her darkened bridge, watching human ships circle her vessel like predators. A communication request came through. She accepted it. Admiral Una's face appeared, tired but triumphant. High Sovereign, your fleet is broken. Your flagship is crippled. You have lost. The Sovereign's mandibles quivered with rage. This changes nothing. The Empire will send more ships, more fleets. We will never stop. I know. Una nodded slowly. And neither will we. That is the point. You have conquered 10,000 worlds because every species you faced eventually surrendered. They calculated the odds, saw they could not win, and gave up. We do not do that. We cannot do that. It is not in our nature. Then we will exterminate you completely. You can try. Others have tried before. Ice ages, plagues, asteroids, our own weapons. We are still here. Una leaned closer to the screen. Let me tell you what happens next. You will retreat. You will report your failure. And the species you have conquered will hear about it. They will hear that a young species from a single star system held off the greatest fleet ever assembled. They will hear that the Velthari can be beaten. The Sovereign said nothing. Hope spreads, Una continued. You said that yourself. It spreads and grows. Right now, somewhere in your empire, slaves are looking at the sky and wondering if they could fight too. In a generation, they will try. In 2 generations, they will succeed. And we will help them. You would not dare. We already have. While you were attacking Earth, we sent ships to your outer colonies. We delivered weapons. We delivered training. We delivered the most dangerous thing of all, proof that the Velthari can lose. The Sovereign stared at the human with new understanding. This was not just a battle. This was the beginning of something far larger. A fire had been lit, and it would spread across the galaxy. Retreat, she ordered finally. All ships retreat. The remaining Velthari vessels limped away from Earth, leaving behind the wreckage of their pride. The humans did not pursue. They did not need to. They had won something more important than a military victory. They had won belief that in the years that followed, the Velthari Empire crumbled. Rebellion after rebellion broke out across their territory. Species that had knelt for millennia remembered how to stand. And wherever they fought, they spoke of the humans who had shown them the way. Admiral Una Park lived to see the first free worlds declare independence. She lived to see human ships welcomed as liberators across the galaxy. She lived to see her granddaughter command a vessel that carried hope instead of weapons. On her last day, surrounded by family and friends, she smiled at the stars outside her window. We did it, she whispered. We held the line. And across the galaxy, in 1,000 languages, free people told the story of the species that had refused to kneel. The species that had fought when fighting.